What is going on, everybody? I'm Chris Dailey, founder of the Sports Court, and this is an interview with Willie Fritz, the head coach of Tulane football. But first, I'd like to say a little bit about myself if you're new to the channel. At 17 years old, I've interviewed over 200 professional athletes, including Shaquille O'Neal, Saquon Barkley, and Greg Berhalter, head coach of the U.S. men's national team. I've also been credentialed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the College Football Playoffs, MLS games, U.S. men's national team games, and many more. I hope you like this interview. I have a passion for doing in-depth, high-quality interviews where I really dig into the story of the interviewee. In this episode, Willie gives a great background on who he is and how he worked up the coaching ladder, going from an assistant and working at community colleges to becoming head coach of a top 10 team in the nation of Tulane, and how he took them to that mark, even beating USC in the Cotton Bowl and a college football classic, one of the best college football games perhaps of all time. Hope you liked the interview, and if you did, leave a subscription. What is going on, everybody? I'm Chris Dailey, founder of the Sports Court, joined here by none other than the head coach at Tulane University, Willie Fritz. Willie, thank you so much for joining the show.
Great to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course. And now I just want to jump straight into your childhood and your background here. You grew up in Kansas and you attended Pittsburgh State. And this is Pittsburgh, Kansas, not Pennsylvania, for people wondering out there. So 2 questions just straight off of that. Describe your childhood and what that was like in Kansas, especially with your dad working in sports with the NAIA. And then nextly, when did you realize while in college, playing college football, that you wanted to give this coaching thing a chance?
Well, I actually lived all over the place growing up. I was born in Bemidji, Minnesota. My dad was the athletic director of Bemidji State University. And he was also, probably how I learned how to do a lot of different things. He was the dean of men. He was in charge of the physical education department. He was the AD. He was the head basketball coach. He was an assistant football coach. And then we moved to Macomb, Illinois. And he did all those same things at Western Illinois University. And then we moved to Buffalo. I actually was not too far away from me. He was the AD and the Dean of Men and the Department Chair of Physical Education. And, they call it kinesiology now. They give it a fancy label. But so we were in Buffalo for a few years. And then we moved to Kansas City. And I went my junior and senior year of high school, Shawnee Mission Northwest High School, and attended Pittsburgh State University and had a great coach there, a guy named Ron Randleman, still very close to. I actually played football and basketball at Pittsburgh State, and it came from a big family, 7 kids in our family. All of us received some type of athletic scholarship, and I had a couple brothers and a couple sisters who were unbelievable students as well. I wasn't that way, but so I was always around sports, and because of my dad's background and my brothers and sisters, I knew once I was a good Division II player, but I wasn't going to be able to play at the next level. I realized I wanted to be a coach, and was lucky enough to coach a year of high school at my alma mater, Shawnee Mission Northwest. And Coach Randall kind of took me under his wing, and I became a GA, and then went to a whole lot of different spots from there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's funny because I'm one of 5, and I think that's a lot. And I'm definitely not the brightest of the bunch as well. I have some brothers that very high SAT scores. I think you would like that as a football coach in college, but definitely some smart guys, and I'm the sports guy. So now just talking about those schools that you go to, for about 10 years, you worked at, as you mentioned, high schools and as assistants at several schools before coming to head coach at Blinn, which is a community college in Texas. What did you learn about yourself while kind of working up the coaching ladder there, and how did those jobs play a factor into who you are today now at Tulane?
What's interesting is today we're having a staff meeting. I'm going to go through all my philosophies, staff organization, job responsibilities, all those different things. And I really learned a lot of it from 2 guys. I learned from everybody that I coached with and have been around and things like that. But, Coach Randleman, as I mentioned, I played for him. I was an assistant coach. I was a coordinator for him. I was a GA for him. Then I became the head coach later at Sam Houston, where he had retired, and I was around him almost every day. He comes. I think he came to 7, 8, 9 of our games last year. And then I also worked for a guy at Coffeyville Community College named Dick Foster. And, here are two guys that were totally different. I mean, they had a different approach to coaching and how they did things. And, but I learned so much from both of them. And I think I'm kind of a balance between both of them, to be quite honest with you. But I think one of the things that young coaches need to do, I think I did a good job of it, is learning, being loyal to the head coach. I had great experiences working for head coaches. And so I think early in my career, I was with both these guys, and I just saw this is what I want to do the rest of my life. And I tried to emulate not just how to be a coach from Coach Ramlin and Coach Foster, but also, how to be a good husband, how to be a good father, how to be a good friend, how to be a good mentor, how to be tough when you need to be tough, and how to put your arm around somebody when you need to put your arm around them. So, I'm still a work in progress, big time, but that was my foundation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And following those positions too, as you mentioned with Sam, or all those positions before Sam Houston, you were at Central Missouri and you became the winningest head coach in history there. And obviously D2 football, I feel like, isn't talked about a lot. I hear a lot of stuff about D3, and then of course goes without saying, Division I, Cotton Bowl, all these big games. So what were the biggest challenges you faced while coaching at a D2 level and trying to bring that program to prominence?
Well, one thing, that I've done, I think, is I've been places where we may not have had a whole lot. Maybe we had an arm, tied behind our back, trying to compete against some other schools. So we just had to, do the very best with what we had, and it allowed me at all these different stops to. I appreciate everybody's job. I was just downstairs a moment ago talking with our academic people, and I've advised, schedule, and enroll student athletes. I did that for 12 years. I was a strength coach for 15 years. I was down there this morning. We started early around here with our strength coach, and we were talking about a bunch of things. I taped ankles for 3 years. I was the athletic trainer, along with being the defensive coordinator. Heck, I was an elementary school teacher. So I think, I believe that it's hard for a guy to go down in levels, because he used to have a silver spoon in his mouth. He's seen all these great facilities, and there wasn't a whole lot of things he had to juggle and do on his own. Where I think it's easier to move up, and that's kind of been my trajectory. I've coached high school, I've coached junior college, I coached D2, I coached 1AA, and I just think I had to learn a lot. I just got back from an alumni trip, and as we talked about before we got on the air, I've done a lot of fundraising. And it just gives me an appreciation of other people's jobs, and I think also I have a little bit of knowledge about what everybody does. Also, certainly, I don't feel like I'm a micromanager. Our strength coach does a fantastic job. There are some things that I give him that I want him to do differently based on how I like seeing things done. Otherwise, though, man, I'm just watching him go. I mean, he works on that 24 hours a day. I mean, he's consumed with it. So I'm not spending near the time. And when I was a strength coach, it was a long time ago. But I've got a really deep appreciation for what everybody does, and I think I can, kind of circle the wagons with everybody, and it helps with the overall program.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think resonating with people is such a big thing, and even with interviewing people, as I mentioned, Shaquille O'Neal was probably my biggest, most notable interview to date, and we're both from New Jersey, and right then and there, like something that he does that everybody loves Shaquille O'Neal. He's one of the most lovable athletes of all time, and the whole time he's like, us Jersey guys, we're just built different. So I think, things like that definitely go a very far way. And now to kind of go into you at Tulane right now after being at Sam Houston and then going to Georgia Southern. You go to Tulane in 2016, and you just are coming off of one of the best college football games, one of the best football games I ever watched, winning 46-45 in the Cotton Bowl against USC, defying all odds as outside the Power 5. I feel like the past couple of years, it's been you guys in Cincinnati to have done that. So describe what coaching that game was like from the sidelines, and especially when you come into the locker room at halftime and you guys are down by 2 scores. What was your mindset like then?
Well, I really, I don't think we played a great game. I've told people that, and some people have kind of thought, oh, you guys must have really rose to the occasion to be able to beat a great program like USC. We didn't play as well as we were capable of on defense. A lot of that had to do with Caleb Williams. Wow, is he a good player? But we had some busts. It was uncharacteristic of us, and he did a nice job of extending plays, with his feet. And he was a hard guy to get down. I mean, I see people ask me all the time about him. I'm like, I see why he won the Heisman Trophy. He's a special player, and probably he might have been the number 1 pick in the draft this past season if he'd have been eligible.
Probably would have.
I don't know, but we just knew that we didn't play great, and we had to make some plays. And then, fortunately for us, we had some breaks there at the end of the game, in particular the kickoff where the guy fumbled it out of bounds on the 1-yard line. That was a huge play for us. But we just, it was great to win a game when maybe you don't play your best game. And it really, I think, showed the resiliency of our players. Nobody was down. Nobody was upset with the other side of the ball or, hey, offense. There was one time we fumbled the ball, and we had to fumble that when we scored that possession because they couldn't stop us either. Mm-hmm. And, that was a big play in the game. But I just was very I admired the resolve that our guys showed throughout the ball game. Just the fight that they had, for the whole game, and hopefully that's ingrained in our program with how we do things. I'm not a woe is me kind of guy. Hey, let's get after it. Let's go and be the best we can. And we were fortunate that we came out on the right end. And I'm always proud of our guys and the competitiveness that they show.
Yeah, definitely. And it was such a great game. And it's funny you say you guys didn't play a great game because I think going into that, you guys had a phenomenal season. And it's almost at the same time, though, you go to Tulane. They're not playing these big-time programs like USC. They don't have Caleb Williams on their team. And to do that, I think at the end of the day, people really only care about what the final scoreboard says. So all that matters is you won at the end. And as for what I mentioned earlier, with you guys being compared to Cincinnati, teams outside of the Power 5 conferences making big statements in college football, I would like to focus big picture here. What's the ultimate goal with the program, and do you think you could lead this program to a national championship or at least somehow get into the playoffs?
Well, obviously with them expanding the playoffs, that's going to be an advantage for Tulane and schools like us to be able to get in the playoffs. Heck, I would have liked to have taken our chances last year. There's a couple of games we lost last year where we didn't play real good in those games either. But we did win at Kansas State. They were Big 12 champions and actually defeated TCU. So there's a lot of good teams in college football. Any given Saturday, right? You can possibly win a ball game, but the big goal for us this season is sustaining this success. Tulane has not done that. In the 126 years they've been playing football here at Tulane, they've had some great teams, had a lot of great players. They just haven't had sustained success, and that's what we want to do. We don't want to be like the '98 team was a great team, undefeated team here at Tulane. Sean King was a quarterback. They had a bunch of players that went on to play in the NFL. And that's all you hear about is the '98 team. I told our guys, I don't want to be in 20 years, all everybody hears about is the 2022 team. All right. I want to think about the 22, 23, 24, 20, so we want to have, sustained success here. And that's our goal for this season. And, we've got, the things we sell here at Tulane. Number one, opportunity to get a world-class education. There's 4,160 colleges and universities across the United States and Canada. We're 39th ranked school academically. So this is a big time degree these guys can obtain here at Tulane. And it's great football league, great competition. I think we proved that by going and beating, USC, on a neutral field. Cincinnati, as you mentioned, had proven that the year before's that. UCF was in the conference and really could have been a national champion, but weren't afforded that opportunity. So it's great football, and we also sell the heck out of New Orleans. This is a great city. It's a destination city, and our guys really enjoy going to school here. So we feel like we can have a big time program, here at Tulane, but we got to go out and do it.
Yeah, totally. I feel like something is brewing, and it's funny because I interviewed Ian Book, and you're saying New Orleans, and this is a totally off-topic question, but do you ever say Nolans or New Orleans, or how do you pronounce it?
Oh, I mean, I say NOLA a lot, is what everybody says around here, and they say there's a few different ways to pronounce it. I got a few more years where I can consider myself a local, because the city really grows on you. I'm not really a big city guy. I've been in these smaller college towns, Statesboro, Georgia, Huntsville, Texas, and Warrensburg, Missouri, and you talk about Pittsburgh, Kansas, and years ago when I went to school there. But we really enjoy it, my wife and I, and besides the great food, there's just so many things to do here, and the people are just, you embrace the city, they embrace it back. So I'll have to work on my Nolans city call.
Yeah, that's funny. And finally, just to wrap up, and you kind of touched point on it with what you said about your coaching staff, how you resonate with everybody, how you're taping ankles and you can resonate with the athletic trainers and the defensive coordinators.
I did that before. I'm not saying I'm taking ankles now. But I did that.
You did that. Did that in the past.
As an head coach, I did it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but and in terms of the players themselves, and you talk about how you get guys into their program, talking about the great city and the program you're trying to build. Once they come in and they buy in, how do you manage the culture and the team spirit of such a big program? Because a football team is almost 100 plus guys, while basketball and soccer, as I am, are a lot less.
Well, I'm around every day. I try to interact with our players every day. When I see something I don't think's being done correctly, I correct it. I'm one of the things I think that I was talking to one of my coaches about this just yesterday. Sometimes confrontation, being direct is, seen as something negative, and it's really positive. I see more people that allow things to keep going on for long periods of time because they don't want to have uncomfortable conversations. And so I think that's something that you got to address. As a head coach, if you see something that's not, you got to pick and choose your fights. Sometimes, it's things are, I've had to adapt and change. I'm proud of the fact that I'm 63 years old and I'm still relevant in this sport. But I don't do things the same way now as I did them, when I was head coach at Blinn Junior College in 1993. I was a tough ass. I every day, and got after the guys every single day, and we had great teams, but now I think it's more about the relationships that allow you to put your arm around a guy or also get after him if he's doing things that is not what you want in the program. So, I just think that's, I don't even know what the question was. I get going on a tangent. Sometimes, Christian, I get going all different directions. But
how you manage the culture, which I think you really touched base on here.
I just do it. I just am around every day. I talk to the kids every day. I see some. I'm not. When I was a head coach at Bland, I coached the back seven on defense. I called all the defense. I did the game plan. I called all the special teams, and I could call a lot of the offense. I'd probably call 5-10 games, 10 plays a game on offense. The game's changed. It's very, very complex, and I'm blessed that I've got some great coaches who work all day on their side of the ball, their position. So I give advice. I look at things. I think probably one of the best things that I do is evaluate personnel. Sometimes guys don't play the right guys. It's as clear as the nose on my face, and they're not playing the guy that should be playing more. They I don't know what it is. Maybe they're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings. I don't know. But that's something that I do. I tell all the players all the time. I'm going to decide who plays and who doesn't play. So if you got a bitch or a gripe about how much you're playing, play better, number one. Number two, come see me. I'll tell you why you're not playing as much as you think you should play. So I think it's just managing, delegating, having relationships. I've probably had, what time is it right now? 9:56. I probably had 20, 30 personal conversations with our players so far today. And I think that's important, and that's why I got into coaching. I know, but I guess that's a little insight to how we try to do things here. We don't have all the bells and whistles. We don't, I sometimes go to some of these places. I'm like, wow, I can't believe, but we've got, I think, a culture that with our coaches in particular, with our players and our support staff, that's second to none.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's really all I had for you, but I definitely like what you said too about you kind of calling the shots about who plays. And I got some personal stuff I'd rather not share, but here is the last snippet of the interview I would like to share to the public. I really do appreciate you for all the time. This was such a great interview. And yeah,
thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you. If you like this, please subscribe. It really means a lot. I've been trying to grow this channel for a while now, and I've been doing all these cool interviews. So please, please, please support the channel. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next interview.